of us to varying degrees are mediums, okay? I do not see myself as special or gifted. I see myself as somebody who has explored a topic that people feel frightened of generally, but they don't need to. And what better knowledge can there be than to know that life goes on and that you can't die? Now, how do I know this? Well, I know this because when I was 4 years old, I was standing in a cemetery with my mum and my grandmother, and I had been playing with some water and stones, and I felt my grandfather come around me. And at that age, not being able to maturely understand the significance of that contact and not needing to feel comforted by it, not understanding that my family would, and not even considering what death is, to be honest, at that age, I just simply got frustrated that I was being interrupted and being asked to deliver a message. So the message was to my grandmother. It was a message of love, and it was, please tell Nanny, Grandad says I love you, Ive. Now, in the book, What the Dead Are Dying to Teach Us, I explain more. I explain the significance of that message and why it really stopped us all in our tracks. But from a young age, it informed me that there is more to life than we understand, and that we haven't understood our reality. So fast forward, and I grow up in a very normal environment. I like to think I'm quite normal. And I have many psychical experiences, which I took in my stride, and I believe many of us do as children. And it seems to be that as we become adults, we then forget that essence and that connection with something greater than ourselves. So I write in the book about out-of-body experiences that I had that I didn't realise were at the time. It's only on reflection now, as I look back and understand more, I realise I was leaving the physical world as a child and moving into the realms of spirit. And I would have psychical experience like premonitions. I believe I remembered past lives. It wasn't just communications with the spirit world that I had like at the age of 4, which was a spontaneous after-death communication. This all fitted into the fabric of my life, and I didn't think anything more of it until my teenage years, when the spirit world really made themselves known. And a spirit guide, basically, in order to get my attention, made himself literally in my face, okay? So I would see him at night. He started to give me signs that he was around. His name was White Feather. That's how he named himself. And my top, obviously, is in homage to White Feather, because I know he's here this evening. Now, what I want to get to here, very briefly and quickly, is that once I recognised and accepted White Feather, and I received beyond doubt proof, I then started to receive messages. So the first time I ever walked into a spiritualist church at the age of 19, I received a message from a trainee medium who told me, you have come here to write for the spirit world. I dismissed it, but she said to me, you've spoken to your grandfather in the past, and he's giving you a white feather quill. Okay, so then they had my attention. And then over the years, over and over, different mediums they came into contact with, healers, shamanic practitioners, kept repeating the same message. For 20 years I didn't listen. Okay, 20 years I dismissed it. I failed my GCSE English twice. I was not a writer. Okay, I'm a mum. I have 2 young children. I had a career in media. I was very happy working at Disney. I worked in advertising before that. I had a normal life, you know, and I earned a good living. So to do something like this for a living was not in the, it just wasn't in my mindset, okay? But that message repeated, so much so that 3 years ago I received a message that would prove to me beyond all doubt that these spirit guides are there and that they mean business. Because I was told, you know, you have a Native American spirit guide with you. He's showing me a white feather and he's telling me the time is now, you write now. And I thought, yeah, here we go. It's all repeating. But a week later, Sunday Times best-selling author Teresa Chung contacts me from out of the blue. I didn't know her at all. She didn't know me. She'd heard my name. She looked it up and she told me she felt heaven had drawn her to me, and I didn't doubt it. So I knew, oh my goodness, here we go. And long story short, Teresa and I collaborated on a book together. But that's not the end of the story, is it? Because I'm still here. So I received even further messages before that book was printed telling me this is the springboard, it's not the book. It's not the book you're going to write. Now, I had no idea if that could come true. I had no contacts in the publishing world. But here I am. I got a call from out of the blue from Joe Lau, who was at Watkins at the time, asking me if I would like to put a proposal in for a book. I mean, most people try hard to write books. It takes a lot to actually get a book deal, and here I was, it just all landed in my lap. So I knew I had to honour it. I knew there was a message that those spirit guides wanted me to get out. And I also knew, because the messages were telling me, you are to stand in front of people, put your head above the parapet, own your truth, which isn't easy, is it, when you say you're talking to dead people, especially when they're called white feather, okay? Just, you know, not natural, is it, to own that as normality? But I knew that you were meant to be here tonight. I knew that if I did this message, that the spirit world would be calling your souls. And I truly believe that if you're sitting here, it's because something in you knows you need this message. So, what are the dead dying to teach us? That's the question, isn't it? On your lips. Okay, so I've written it in 7, if you like, easy to follow lessons, because there is a lot that I've learnt from my personal experiences. But there are core truths. So tonight I'm going to run through the core truths with you so that you have an understanding of what it is those in spirit are trying to let you know. And it's beautiful. And if you could have the knowledge I have, if you've ever had experiences with the spirit world, if you've ever experienced spontaneous communication from deceased loved ones, signs, apparitions, words, feelings, if you've ever had that yourself, then you know how transformative it is. So putting my head above the parapet, knowing this message transcends me and my little life, it's about us and us owning who we really are and moving into a new understanding. I'm willing to do it because you're here willing to listen. So here we go, okay? And the first lesson is you are spirit. What do I mean by that? I mean, spirit, what is it? I mean, you can't even really sort of hold that, can you? For me, spirit is consciousness, it's psyche, it's awareness. I mean, it's sometimes really hard to understand, isn't it, to prove an afterlife. I don't say that I can. I've worked with many scientists now, and I understand the scientific process, and I understand that science hasn't yet proven the afterlife. But we can all know we're conscious. We can all understand and tap into that part of ourselves that isn't physical, that awareness within us that you can't say is anywhere particularly within you. You may think it's in your brain, but really, you know, when you go into a room, say you've been to a room full of people and 2 people have been arguing, and you walk into that atmosphere and you feel it. That's a non-physical intelligence that you're in touch with. We all know that, don't we? That's not something in you, in your brain. Where do you feel that? Normally first here in the solar plexus, you walk in, whoa, there's an atmosphere, okay? Don't feel comfortable. You almost want to protect yourself there sometimes, don't you? So there is this aspect of life and an intelligence within us that is non-physical. That to me is your spirit, the eternal part of you. Now I'm telling you, and what spirit tell me as they come back and they prove themselves in the best way they can, is that that part of you goes on. It can't be destroyed. And that's why those in the spirit world come back. They want to try and prove to us that this is the case. Okay, that there's an element of you that can't die. We do not understand what consciousness is scientifically. We know so much about our material world, but we do not understand consciousness. In the book I write about the fact that Sir Roger Penrose, who is a absolute genius scientifically, who worked with Stephen Hawking on black hole theories, he has said, until we understand what consciousness is, we can't say that we have a theory of everything, because there is this aspect of our reality that goes beyond the physical. And what is the physical anyway? I mean, the next lesson is death is an illusion. And the reason that I say death is an illusion isn't to belittle the grief that you may feel of losing someone. It's not to take away from you that you've experienced the death of a loved one and I'm making light of it. I'm not. I understand that grief is real, that that person was real here with you and the physicality of them is gone and you miss them. But it's to try and make you understand that reality is not at all how we perceive it anyway. And therefore, as we grow in our scientific understanding, as we start to understand that quantum theory even now is proving the material world is actually smoke and mirrors, that at the quantum level it's only potential. And the weird thing is, we don't even know that potential. It doesn't realise until it seems to be observed. How spooky is that, as Einstein said? So actually at some level, this isn't material. This where we're sitting, the chairs you're on, the bodies you have are not material. It's a new way of looking at your reality. But science and spirituality are coming together. And when we can understand this and we can start to look at our reality differently, it then becomes more acceptable to maybe think, okay, the material world isn't actually all it seems. The only reason I'm experiencing that as solid is because my mind, my awareness, my brain filters information in that allows me to experience it in this way. But if it isn't actually solid and real, but I'm conscious, can consciousness somehow exist beyond the physical body? I'm saying, in my experience, that knowledge is going beyond reasonable doubt for me now. I've had so many experiences that I've put to the test, and I'm asking you to do the same. Please don't believe me. I don't want followers, I don't want believers. I want people that question, people that are going to, if you read the book, question for yourself. Think, step out of the paradigm that we've been sold that this material world is all there is. Because I can tell you there's many scientists that are looking at that now. Consciousness studies is the fringe science at the moment, but it's the leading area. So death is an illusion. The next lesson I want to share with you that I've learned over the years is that you are never alone. What I learnt from my spirit guide letting me know that he was around, what I learnt from my grandfather reaching out to me, and what I've learnt from now 20 years experience as a professional medium, client after client after client, is that love connects us. And that we are never alone even when we feel like we are. Because if consciousness is part of something greater, if there is a universal field of awareness, whatever you want to call that, then you cannot be separated from it because you are it. It's part of our universe. And that is connecting us through our minds and our brains, through thought, through the mind. You send your thoughts out, your loved ones are with you. They're here. We sometimes think of heaven as above in the sky. That's a mythical explanation. It's a way of trying to interpret things. The reality is that consciousness, that realm, that dimension that isn't physical is all around us. And so your loved ones can be here. They can send their thoughts. I tend to think of it a bit like a text message going out, you know. When you hold a physical phone, you're sending something through the ether that you can't see that goes to another physical phone, aren't you? You know, similar, that kind of analogy, if you like. We aren't ever alone. And if you ever feel that you have lost a loved one and that you are finding it difficult to cope with the sheer immense feeling of that loss, I ask you just to look into my work, look into the work of the scientists that have been looking into this field, listen to the everyday people, the thousands of everyday people that have had experiences that we all seem to be too frightened to talk about for fear of ridicule. I said I wasn't special. I don't think I'm gifted. I believe that all of us have this connection to this greater reality. The only difference between yourself and me is I had an experience at 4 years old that led me down the path of research. I wanted to get hands-on. It wasn't enough for me to just be having faith or being told. I wanted to experience it. And I spent week after week expanding my mind, meditating, getting out of my thoughts, to get in touch with that reality. And it takes time and patience, and it doesn't happen overnight, and many of us just lose that patience and give in. But I'm stubborn, okay, thankfully, because here I am. Okay, now the next lesson I want to share with you, I have to look at this, sorry, but I mean the book came through me, so I even forget the order of the titles and the chapters, you know, because it feels like I was slightly, you know, distant from this information coming in. So, you can rise above fear. Many people are frightened of spirit communication. But I hope you can understand that if you are spirit, and your spirit living here, consciousness, psyche, awareness, whatever you want to call it, there's nothing to be scared of. You are it. You're already in contact with it. You're interacting with each other here. And for me, those in spirit are no different other than they've taken off their physical body, they've stepped out that vehicle or that coat, and they're in another form, just existing in another form, just like we move, or just like water moves from ice to water to steam, okay? We're energy, we just transform. So there's nothing to be frightened about in that. A lot of people are frightened because they bring religious conditioning with them. I believe that my message does not contradict any religion. In fact, I'm trying to bring people's understanding that the mystical teachings and the scriptures all across the world point to the same truth. Love and life after death. I mean, it's in everything you read. So I'm not contradicting you. But sometimes we're told that you shouldn't be doing this, that this is bad for you, you're opening a doorway, there's evil spirit. You get all sorts of fear fed to you. But the reality is, you are spirit already, okay? And it's all about intention, mediumship. You get out of it what you put in. So if you can come to it with a steady, mental, healthy well-being, and if you set the intention of, I'm only coming to this to experience something loving and enlightening and nothing else, I'm not interested in anything else, thank you, then you align yourself with that. We understand in this world, we see it all around us, like attracts like. We're all here, aren't we? We have similar mindsets, curiosity, it's drawn us together. And it's the same there, okay? People that just aren't interested in this sort of thing, spirits, they're not there. The only reason I find that people connect with me when I'm doing messages for loved ones, for clients here, is because there is a common ground of love. What's to be frightened of in that? Other things are, obviously, people are frightened of fraudulence. It's a real concern. There are people that are obviously going to take advantage of us. I don't say there isn't. But there are steps you can take to understand what a genuine medium is, what a quality reading is, and I outline all of that, so I'm not going to go into that now. But there are steps you can take to make sure that you don't have to have fear in that respect. So you don't have to be frightened of this. And the spirit world come back with love. Sometimes the expressions of love I have felt and experienced have been so immense, I feel I can't even contain it in my body. If you go into a practice of meditation and you feel spirit teachers come close, or your loved ones, it is amazing. Why would you want to lose out on that? Even if you don't want to be a medium yourself, okay? I think all of us want to just develop our sensitivity a little bit, don't we? It's not about, this book is not about becoming a medium, okay? This book is about you realising who you are and becoming more sensitive and more open to that wider reality, so that you can have and experience your fullest potential in life, okay? Because you're not living from a point of fear, hopefully you're starting to release the fear of death. You're empowering yourself to realise life is just awesome and amazing. We don't understand any of it, to be quite honest. Okay, I certainly don't have all the answers, but I know that in me owning that even, I'm closer to the truth. because I'm not coming with conditioning. I'm coming with a true, genuine want to seek and to understand. The next lesson is love never dies. I've already touched on it. But I learnt that from the age of 4. We talk about death ends a life. It doesn't end a relationship. How many of you have lost a loved one? Loads of us. Has your love finished? Has that relationship ended? It hasn't. It continues on. And if you can start to hold the understanding that even though you're separated in different dimensions or a different reality, that love is still there for you and it always will be, there's a peace, there's a comfort, there's a grace about it. I know because I'm living it, and I want everybody else to have that. Now I know I can't make everyone else have that, but it's my driving passion, okay? That love never dies. In the book I share true stories. I've got one of the lovely people sitting here who's been so generous in sharing true stories about contact that we've had shared together with Spirit. John has kindly shared in the book, you will see his story, all about how his family members came close and how his life has transformed because of it, of having that knowledge. It is mediumship when done well, when done with compassion, when done with the true intentions and just being honest about it, not trying to be something it's not, is therapeutic. I also share a story about Susie. Susie, this story floored me because I was standing on a platform like this talking and I brought her father through. And Susie's, I didn't know this, but Susie had just become engaged. And she wanted to know if her dad approved, because she loved her dad and he died. So I was able to name her dad. I was able to name her fiancé. I was even able to say, I can see a wedding, he's giving the person away. I could see even that she had been to Amsterdam. Now what I didn't know, and she validated all this to me afterwards, was that when she had been to Amsterdam, she just got back by the way when I gave her this message, she'd seen her dad in a dream, letting her know all was well and that he was with her. And as we often do when we get a sign, we doubt, don't we? Is it wishful thinking? Is it my imagination? Do I just want this too much? So that day when I gave her that message, she then knew, my dad came to me. My dad came to me and I doubted it, and now he's validated it externally through someone else who doesn't know any of this. And she was given the ability to go to her wedding and enjoy her wedding knowing her dad was there. It freed her up. Now I'm not saying that readings and messages are always revelatory. You know, sometimes they're very simple. Sometimes it's just the tiniest piece of information that you just know is for you, that no one else could know. And everybody else around you will say, well, they could have said that, I could have researched you, you know. Yes, but sometimes it goes beyond that. Sometimes it goes beyond when you just know, beyond reasonable doubt, there's something in this. Love never dies. Now, the other thing, ask and it will be given. I touched on this. You need to ask. I mean, your loved ones are with you anyway, okay? But I think the intention, actually you asking, opens you out. It says, I'm ready to open my mind to receive communication in whichever way you can give it to me. Now, where a lot of people make mistakes here is they expect their loved one to just appear to them. But we are talking about consciousness. Okay, we're talking about non-physical realms. Sometimes that communication comes in feelings. Feel, and don't dismiss your feelings when you suddenly may have a feeling of peace come over you. The symbolisms in dreams that you're trying to understand. The spirit world communicate in symbolisms. They communicate in feelings and they communicate in symbols. It's a universal language that all of them can use across all time. So you have to try and shift your idea about how that communication might come to you. But ask, because when you ask, you set the intention. And intention is everything, because we're dealing with communication and spirit. Now, can you all, I mean, you may well all understand that the law of attraction, how when you set your mind out there, you know, you draw to you the experiences you're hoping to create. It's because you start to focus on it. And it's exactly the same. Okay? Now the last lesson, which I actually think probably is the most important one, because many of us have a fear of death and dying, is that nobody dies alone. It's a beautiful, beautiful insight that I've been able to glean over 23 years. I share lots of scientific research in this book, and I've spoken to many palliative care nurses who tell me that at the moment of dying, watching somebody die, their deceased loved ones start communicating, and they start communicating to those deceased loved ones, and nurses know they're going to pass soon. And it's amazing. Many of the nurses have told me that there's practices in place where they open the window and let the spirit out. They have little honoured practices that they give. That's not scientific, is it? But something in us knows there's something more. And that nobody does die alone. It's interesting, these stories of deathbed visions that I'm talking about, no one ever talks about seeing living loved ones. The dying talk about deceased loved ones. And that's just one area. As a medium, when I'm delivering messages, I'm often shown the conditions of passing. I'm often shown how someone passed, what they had, the conditions they had that made them cross. And I'm also shown an insight into what they experienced afterwards. I've lost count of the amount of times people see a spirit in the corner. Their loved ones are saying, my loved one was looking in the corner of the room and talking to mum or dad, and then I'm giving a message validating that, you know, saying the same thing. You're not on your own, and even if you pass with no family members around you here because it's a sudden passing, or you pass when everybody's left, you will be embraced in the light. There will be spirit teachers, even if, let's face it, we don't all get on with our family. We might not want to see our family. It sounds really trite, but I can only tell you what I've experienced. Okay? And it's good news. Why do we find it so hard to accept something like that? I mean, I'm not saying the spiritual dimensions are all happy days, skippy, skippy. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that as you want to help people here, and as we reach out and help people here, don't we, when we see them in trouble, then it's the same. So these 7 core lessons are being brought to you through what the dead are dying to teach us, so that you can have some peace of mind, upliftment in your soul. And it's a positive message in a time when I really believe we need to hear this. I think that we've understood reality wrong. I don't believe that we are just in a material world. And sometimes the way we live on this planet is in such a disposable manner. You know, I'm just going to get the most out of this life because I've got one and that's it. You know, what if it isn't? I don't believe it is. In the book I talk about reincarnation. Won't go into that now. But I've had many experiences that make me believe that this isn't just it. So once we understand a bit more about this reality, we start to live more fully, more responsibly, and we shift our awareness. And that's what the spirit world have told me. It's about a shift in consciousness, that you guys are all ready for this wisdom and you're seeking it, and for whatever reason it's come through me, but it could be coming through you. So I'm going to finish this talk now just to say that the whole purpose of this book is not about my life, it's about empowering you. So the last things I share in there are many tips called calls to actions, to help you bring sensitivity into your own lives, so you can explore this for yourself and put it to the test. So I hope you found this talk enlightening, interesting, inspiring. If it's resonated with you, that's wonderful. But I don't stand here as a guru. I stand here as an everyday person who's had everyday experiences that I'm just perhaps crazy enough to stand up and own, hoping that I know so many of you have had your own experiences, that as we come together, we share, we learn, we grow, we change this world. But the reason it's puzzling is because we're looking at reality through our limited perception. What I share in the book is the research of Dr. Julia Mossbridge, and she talks about time and that we don't understand the reality of time. We experience time as linear, and time is not linear. It doesn't behave in a linear fashion. In fact, it seems that everything happens at once, that we can time slip, that we can time travel, and in spirit we can be in many different places at many different times. So I absolutely believe in reincarnation, but it seems that you can be in spirit and here. It's all a simultaneous experience rather than a linear experience, and this will blow your mind even more. You won't even understand it.
That doesn't mean they have a physical body?
It means that...
But another part of them can communicate with you?
Yes,
like,
it could do.
My father, who passed away, never gets in touch with me. Does that mean he's got a physical body, he doesn't want to communicate?
There are many reasons, okay? But your father, it might not be he doesn't want to communicate. It might be it hasn't been the right time. He might be feeling, are you ready? He may have moved on in his own progression in spirit, but that doesn't mean he's not with you, okay?
I don't
in love,
that.
Okay? You don't understand that.
I find it a bit confusing, you know what
well,
I mean?
It is really confusing.
How can they have a physical body and still be with you, if you know what I mean?
But he may not have reincarnated yet. He just may be further up. Spirit, I'm going up because spirit dimensions is frequency,
right,
okay? So, if those frequencies are really high, if his vibration is very fine, now I'm really getting into the nuts and bolts of it, then sometimes mediums find it very difficult to reach them because our physical body is dense and not able to reach that frequency. So Dad may well be with you, but just not able to communicate, or it's harder for a medium to perceive him, okay? He may have reincarnated, I don't know. You know, I don't know, I haven't communicated with Dad. But all I would say to you is, you're looking at it for a limited perception. Time and reality does not behave at all like we experience it with our brain. And it's possible to be that and that. Living in the contradiction is what I call it, okay? And I don't know, I don't have all the answers. It blows my own mind.
Well, I mean, is there a plane where there are souls who don't reincarnate, who just...
Yes, there are, because spirit beings, spirit guides and loved ones definitely have been incarnate before but don't then come back. They're moving on. I mean, you know, this is such a vast subject and I can't answer it all, but that's in a short nutshell. How does mediumship enhance my life? Okay, well, from personal experience, what I've found is when done well, mediumship, I find a lot of clients come to me because they're stuck in their grief. They feel that if they move on with their life and live fully, that they are in some way leaving their loved one behind and forgetting them and dishonouring their memory. If I can try and help someone understand that you are something much greater than this and that you're connected and life goes on, then you are freer then to get on and live because you understand your loved ones are. The whole purpose of mediumship isn't to have repeated messages. It's to have an experience yourself that helps you know there's more to reality so that you then get in touch with that, okay? I don't advocate repeated message over and over and over, okay? If you're getting stuck in that, it's not the mediumship per se, it's the fact that you haven't found the answer to what you want or you haven't found the peace that you're looking for. And you've probably quite rightly let it go so that you can get on with your life and start to move through your grief, okay? I have found with the clients I speak to that it frees them up to live their life more fully. They don't fear death. They're starting to understand death isn't real, so they're embracing life. They're starting to heal mentally so that they can then, you know, move on, live, embrace, be together and appreciate that life is awesome. I mean, we do get very cynical the older we get, don't we? And we can lose the joy of life. So it's about reconnecting in with that. Everybody's different. It's not for everyone. This is not a cure-all. This is just a knowledge that I believe does help us to learn that life is so precious we need to make the most of it here and now. And that is why our loved ones come back, because they're trying to get us to understand I'm okay, please don't worry about me. Live. When you live, I live. I can live. So that's my take on it. As I say, you're free to let whatever resonates with you, okay? Yes, would I say that this is the problem with our culture, is that we don't understand death? This is half of the problem, isn't it? In the old days, in ancient times, death was a part of life. People were there when their loved ones died. They were there when they saw the spirit leave. They were there, they understood the fragility of life. We brush it under the carpet now. We don't talk about it. And then people don't talk about these very precious experiences, and they feel lonely and isolated in them. Part of my message is about that. Let's shift the way that we look at death and dying. I believe, and I put this in the last chapter where I talk about nobody dies alone, many of us feel disempowered when somebody is dying because they don't know what to do. They feel out of control. But actually, if you understand, I can connect in with the consciousness of this person. That I can reach them at a level that's deeper. I might not be able to help the physical anymore. It's out of my hands. But I can connect with love, bring an energy to that person that is nurturing, and help them cross. That's empowering. So once we start to shift our perception and deal with the dying in a more compassionate, open-minded way, I think that also helps us. And I do agree, we need to move our understanding along now.